So do you know, like on your podcast, you like do double time?
What's that?
A podcast, you can do 2x or 1.5x.
Okay,
Yeah.
we'll do that. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks, Bill, for the introduction. I'm going to try and catch us up on some time. I'm going to, as Bill mentioned, I'm with the Water Environment Research Foundation. I think many of you are familiar with us. We're located in Alexandria, Virginia. We just merged with the Water Reuse Research Foundation. And so we now cover an extensive portfolio of water reuse research. We have a portfolio of about $200 million under of research under the combined organizations. And it includes the LIFT program, which stands for Leaders Innovation Forum for Technology, which is a program focused on accelerating innovation in the water industry. Bill asked me to come talk with you today about innovations in thermochemical conversion. So I thought I'd start with just an overview of what are thermochemical processes. And this is a relatively simple diagram. It shows the distinction. First of all, I want to make the distinction between biological processes and thermochemical processes. So biological processes are related to, for example, anaerobic digestion and digestion processes. Thermochemical processes do not use biological processes. Bill, I think, earlier referred to thermochemical processes as the holy grail of solids management. I think there's been a lot of efforts in the past to achieve success in these categories. They're largely broken down into three primary categories: pyrolysis, gasification, and hydrothermal processes. Pyrolysis and gasification use dry materials, whereas hydrothermal processes use wet materials. Pyrolysis is a form of thermal decomposition of organic matter. It's done in the absence of oxygen at high temperatures. Typically, the products from that are biochar, which can be a good agricultural use for soils. Also, in addition to the biochar, typically produces syngas and a pyrolysis oil. Gasification is kind of the next step in pyrolysis, and it's usually at a higher temperature with a little bit of oxygen, and it converts the organic material, the remaining biochar, if you will, from pyrolysis into syngas. So the product from gasification is really a syngas, which needs to be cleaned up and can ultimately be converted into transportation fuels. Hydrothermal processes include a number of subcategories. They include, you might have heard of supercritical water oxidation as one category that's in there that can produce power from steam. And then other categories include hydrothermal liquefaction and catalytic hydrothermal gasification. And these technologies can convert the organic matter into fuels like biocrude oil, natural gas. So some examples of notable projects in the pyrolysis arena. Some of you may have heard of Core Infrastructure, which is a new technology provider. They're currently working to develop the first commercial scale of its kind at LA County Sanitation District to convert the organic sludge there into biochar as well as diesel fuels. So they've been doing pilot testing there for the last 5 or 6 years. They just entered into a long-term performance-based contract to use their process at a larger scale, and it's due to come online, I think, anytime, very, very soon. So that'll be an interesting one to watch, the Core technologies. The other thing interesting about Core is the model they use is design, build, operate. So there's very little risk to the utility. They take on all the risk. So this will be an interesting one to watch. Gasification, some notable examples in the past have been, some of you have heard of the Max West facility in Sanford. Ran for a number of years. I think it went out of business in 2014. Bill, in his opening remarks, mentioned Aries Clean Energy, who they have a facility in Tennessee that's kind of uses a lot of mixed waste to energy. But there's some in Europe and some in Asia, but there's very few examples of gasification facilities for wastewater sludge here in the U.S. The one in Tennessee is the only one I can think of that's operating right now. And then on the hydrothermal side, some of the technology providers that are out there include Aquacritox, which some of you may have heard of. There was a company called Superwater Solutions that did manage a supercritical water oxidation facility in Florida for a number of years. And they had I don't know if explosion is the right word, but a failure of one of their tanks. It's a high pressure system, and they haven't really recovered from that, and I think have either gone out of business or been bought out. So that facility is no longer in operation. Bill mentioned that Orange County Sanitation District was looking at putting in an Aquacritox facility in, but I guess has ultimately decided not to do that. There is a facility in Spain that the EU has funded as a demonstration facility, but I don't think it's currently operating either. So there's not a lot of operating examples on supercritical water oxidation. What I'm going to focus on today is actually a different process. It's called a different hydrothermal process that uses hydrothermal liquefaction and catalytic hydrothermal gasification. And there's two projects I'm going to talk about. One is a project that we just completed last year in our LIFT program with a bench scale technology evaluation. And then second is a new project that's a DOE-funded grant that we were just awarded in January to do a demonstration facility at Central Contra Costa Sanitary District in California. So what is this technology? And the technology provider that we're working with is called Jenna Fuel. This technology uses water, temperature, and pressure to convert wastewater sludge into biocrude oil and natural gas. And it uses the same processes that Mother Nature uses, but instead of taking millennia to do this, it does it in less than an hour, converting all the organic materials, virtually all, over 99%, into fuels. The interesting thing about it is it's designed for wet organic waste. So unlike pyrolysis and gasification, you don't have to dry out the feedstock first, which ultimately leads to a much higher energy positive balance for the system. I mentioned it uses hydrothermal liquefaction. That's the portion that converts the organic material into biocrude oil, and the catalytic hydrothermal gasification creates the natural gas. The other product is an effluent water that is clear and sterile, but it's very high in ammonia. Just a little bit of background about LIFT and how we got involved with this project. As I mentioned, LIFT is a joint WE&RF initiative to accelerate innovation in the water sector, and in particular to help move new technologies into practice more quickly. We're now celebrating our 5th anniversary this year since we started the program. We do have a program where we go out and scan the universe for innovative technologies and vet those through an expert review process. We now have over 105 technologies that we're dealing with in the program and working with. All those technologies you can find in this platform here called LIFT Link, and you can go in and discover those technologies. You can search and sort for technologies on nutrients or digestion enhancements or biosolids to energy, and see which different technologies are in there. And actually, I was pleased to see a number of the speakers earlier today all have technologies in here. Canby, Airprex is in there, GE, Licetech. We will be speaking tomorrow. So there's a lot of different innovations to discover. You can follow those technologies. So when things happen with that technology, if there's an enhancement or some new data available, you'll receive notification of that. You can see who else is following those technologies so that you can find people to work together with on projects and to collaborate on proposals. Also in the LIFT program, we have a peer-to-peer innovation network. Includes over 400 municipal and industrial facility owners that are participating. They meet regularly, and sometimes via web, sometimes in person. Bill already mentioned the IR² forum that's happening in Manhattan College this year, which will feature over 25 innovative technologies. I encourage you to come join that if you can. But this utility working group has identified a dozen high-priority technology areas of interest. And one of those technology areas is biosolids to energy. So when that group formed, we initially put together a technology matrix to see what different technologies categories were out there and what technology providers existed in this space. So we identified technology providers in gasification, pyrolysis, hydrothermal liquefaction, supercritical water oxidation. The Jenna Fuel technology you actually identified at a WEF meeting. It was an algae workshop, actually, that I was attending, and learned about it. And when I was talking to, actually as a university professor about it, they were looking at it converting algae to energy. And I said, well, can you convert sludge to energy? He said, any organic material will work. So we invited Jenna Fuel to submit an application to the LIFT program with details about their technology. We did an expert review of that in 2014. And based on that expert review, we invited them to give a presentation to our working group, our LIFT utility working group. We had about 10 utilities raise their hand and say, hey, we're interested in exploring this technology and working together to share the cost and risk of helping to move it forward. So we had about 10 utilities pitch in about $5,000 each. We leveraged that with some funding from an EPA grant of another $50,000. And then DOE contributed some in-kind contributions, so we were able to do about a $250,000 bench scale evaluation of this technology in 2015. And that evaluation was done by a third-party evaluator. It was Phil Maroney at Leidos Incorporated, as well as we had a project subcommittee peer review panel. So we published a report in 2016 on that bench scale evaluation, and that's available from the WE&RF website. The findings and key conclusions and recommendations are here. I don't know if you can see all these, but one of the things it did say is that the technology does what it says it does. Biocrude and methane were definitely successfully generated from primary, secondary, as well as post-digester sludge. There wasn't any difficulties in pumping the sludge feeds. Bill, you will like this third point on here. I know you're a biosolids aficionado. But one of the interesting findings that we had from that bench scale study was that the quality of the biocrude oil that was produced from that wastewater sludge was as good or better than the best algae feedstock that DOE's been working with. When DOE spent a lot of money looking at algae feedstocks, and algae is actually quite, relative to wastewater sludge, is an expensive feedstock. So DOE, I think, was very excited at this finding, and I think they've actually started to pivot towards wastewater and wastewater sludge. Some of you may have noticed. I think when DOE first started looking at algae to biomass to energy, they had a significant focus on algae because there's so much of it that's out there and could be generated. But now I think they're seeing that the algae can be expensive, and here you have, and it's expensive to harvest, to grow, harvest, and then collect and get in one place. Whereas wastewater sludge, it's already in one place. You start with a negative cost. So I think DOE's pivoting to wastewater now and sludge and other forms of organic waste as a feedstock for some of these processes that they've developed. This technology, the hydrothermal liquefaction technology, was originally developed at a DOE lab, Pacific Northwest National Laboratories. They've been working on it for over 20 years, but just now they're starting to, not very much work had been done looking at wastewater sludge as a feedstock, but now they're starting to look at it. Again, conclusions, had 99% COD reduction in the effluent. The siloxane concentrations in the gas, CHG product gas, were below engine limits, so that was a good positive finding. The effluent, as I mentioned, is capable of meeting regulatory limits except for nitrogen. We're going to have to do something about that. One thing that needs to be resolved is there was some sulfur poisoning of the catalyst that was used in the gasification system. But overall, the results said, the next best step for this would be to do a larger scale demonstration of this technology, perform some longer term tests, larger scale, perform an energy balance, get some more data. And that is our next step. So I'm going to now talk about scale up of this technology, something we're calling the High Powers Project, which is hydrothermal processing of wastewater solids. This project is the result of a DOE funding opportunity announcement that was issued in May of 2016. The announcement went out for actually pilot and demonstration facilities for a variety of feedstocks at a variety of scales. But one thing that was interesting was DOE it had one of the topics that they expressed interest in that funding opportunity announcement was wastewater sludge. So this demonstration project is a pilot unit for wastewater sludge. WE&RF put together a consortium of organizations to respond to this. We received notification in January of 2017 that we were selected for the project. We just held our kickoff meeting at Central Contra Costa Sanitary District in June last month, and had a great kickoff. So the project's being conducted in 2 phases. The first phase is about a $2.5 million study. It's for validation of the process, planning and front-end engineering design of the technology. After that phase 1, and this will be about a 18 to 24 month phase, there'll be a down select where DOE may decide to award us up to $30 million. Again, that'll be a 50-50 cost share with DOE to do a construction and piloting of the facility at Central Sand. The target size for that is about 20 wet metric tons of sludge at 20% solid, so it's about 4 metric tons of dry solids. I should note that in parallel with this project, there is another demonstration that is planned for Metro Vancouver in Canada. They also participated in the Lift Bench Scale project and are moving forward with a project funded through an innovation fund that the city has set aside. And they're also seeking some Canadian federal dollars to do that. So these 2 projects are moving together in parallel. In terms of how this fits into the wastewater process at Central Sand, the sludge coming off the primary and secondary treatment units goes to a centrifuge. Currently, it's centrifuged to about 25% solids. It goes to an incinerator currently, but the Central Sand knows they're going to need to replace that soon. It's been in service for a long time. They're going to send a side stream over to the hydrothermal processing unit, which will produce the biocrude oil, the natural gas, as well as the CHG effluent water, which will need to go back to the headworks. There will be a precipitate with some phosphorus that could potentially be recovered for fertilizer. This is the project team. Includes WE&RF, Pacific Northwest National Laboratories. Jenna Fuel, the technology provider, has licensed a lot of the IP from PNNL. They've also co-developed some of the IP. American company is the design firm. We're working again with Central Sand and Metro Vancouver. Our partners on the offtake for the gas and the oil are SoCal Gas in California and Tesoro, which is a refinery in California. Brown & Caldwell is helping with some of the regulatory permits, and Microbiome Engineering is helping with some of the research to support that effort. I should mention we have about 16 utilities that are also participating in that project and engaged in providing input from the end user perspective. Here's our objectives. Again, design, and this is a design phase. Ultimately, we'll come out with a CD3 design package, and our ultimate objective is to demonstrate and commercialize this as a new technology for the wastewater industry. So here's the current status of the technology. So just to kind of summarize the main points from the presentation. Extensive testing on wastewater sludge and biosolids has been successful and has created a lot of learning on the equipment and design. Our next step is demonstrations at Metro Vancouver and Central Sand and sharing of the data and results. We're going to need to make some further progress on how do you either remove or recover the ammonia from the effluent, and then also offtake partners for the oil and gas. Just in terms of maturity level, where this fits, some of you may have seen these S-curves of innovation before. On the bottom x-axis, you have time, and on the y-axis, you have development number of installed installations of the technology. So hydrothermal processing still very low early stage, as well as supercritical water oxidation, as well in gasification as well. Haven't moved up the curve like thermal hydrolysis, incineration, and certainly anaerobic digestion, which is much more mature. Last point I'll make, and encourage you to check out this new tool, which is just released by WE&RF as part of our LIFT program. We did a utility technology survey to find out what types of innovative technologies utilities were putting in, or had put in, and what they were thinking about putting in. So it's a very forward-looking survey. We have about 100 utilities respond. The survey is still open. If your utility hasn't responded and would like to, we encourage you to go to this the website there to submit a survey. But I just wanted to show you the results for our biosolids to energy technologies. It's a little bit fuzzy here, but again, along the x-axis is time of implementation, and the y-axis is cumulative number of respondents that say they have either implemented or are thinking of implementing it. So moving from left to right, it's if they've implemented it on the left, and then are they interested in implementing it in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, or at some point in the future? So we're still in our infancy, in the summary here is we're still in our infancy in terms of thermal conversion technologies. But if you look at the interest from utilities, far out, they still see that they may put these in down the road. I think they want to see some results and proof that it functions and works as advertised, and that will open the doorway. So that's all I have. And
Well, thank you, Jim. So, if you have a question to